Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code Casual Magic to get 10% off your sale. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Coalesce, Cool Stuff Inc., and Architect. I was about to say Cool Stuff Apparel, but I don't think that's the way it works. Anyways, I love my sponsors. They've been sponsoring my show for like a year now, which is fantastic. And today, for the 149th episode of Casual Magic, I have brought on my dear friend and once upon a time arch enemy and now colleague on the CAG, Rebell AI. Hello, Rebell. How's it going?
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I'm glad to be here for 149.
Yeah, it's a nice, not round number at all, but 150 is going to be tomorrow. So, like, I had to save the special one for that. The idea of actually doing 150 of anything in a row for me is so hard to fathom because I am a flighty ADHD ridden person who does not stick to things. But
that's like a tenth of One Piece.
Yeah, so like Kessler would have watched it for an hour while feeding his child.
Yeah. I wonder what a Casual Magic Abridged would be like.
Oh my god, Casual Magic Abridged would be like, so what the hell would it be like? It would be like basically me telling you to stop putting tutors in your deck. And that's the end of the story. Oh, man. Anyways, I've invited Rebell on today because she's one of my good friends. And it's my show where I talk to my good friends. I was going to say we should talk, like... I was going to, like, honestly, I wanted to talk to you about CAG stuff since it's been cool that you and Wheeler joined the CAG simultaneously, and
Tim.
Yeah, and Tim, and obviously I had Tim on like 2 weeks ago. And then at the same time, like a week or two later, Olivia and Jim got pumped off the CAG and into the RC. So it's been quite a big set of changes for us internally that have not had any impact at all on the greater world, which is kind of, I guess, how it should be, because Commander's fine and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot wrong with it, but the good kind of wrong.
It's fine. I mean, everything is fine. Everything is working. The things people are complaining about are the things they always complain about, which is, again, fine. Like Cyclonic Rift is... I feel like if we banned Cyclonic Rift, people wouldn't have anything to talk about, and it would be sad. But
we'd move on to Draneth Magistrate.
Draneth Magistrate. That card is miserable and stupid, and I hate it. And also, it's totally fine and fair and exists where it needs to exist. Who cares, right? Like, when people are like, man, you need to ban Draneth Magistrate, and I'm like, you need to put a lightning bolt into your deck. Like, there's 3 players at the table. We're playing in the most wrath-heavy format in the game. If Draneth Magistrate is hanging around long enough to ruin your day, I don't know what to tell you, except maybe start politicizing your table or politicking with your friends and making things happen, right?
Yeah, and if you don't have a lightning bolt, you can always go to Cool Stuff Inc., where they have a bunch of cool stuff and also lightning bolts.
The code Casual Magic for 5% off. Jesus Christ. Yeah, like, seriously, Swords to Plowshares. Right? Like, there's things you could do. It's Draneth Magistrate. It's like a 2/3 or a 2/1 or something stupid and small and white that dies to, like, blinking hard at it. But it keeps Thrasios in the command zone, so
it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. I don't care. It's like, there's cards that are just so much worse for the experience than that one. It's Stacks gets to exist. It does. Like, I don't like it, but it's fine. It's no more irritating than having somebody Phoenix you out of the game, right? Like,
I
So
haven't seen a Phoenix for so long. Wow. Phoenix, I remember when like old days Commander,
yeah,
that was a terror because
that
it
card
just
is
yeah.
in a proper deck. Like the first time I ever played Commander against Aaron Forsyth, it was at GDC, and they'd all brought their decks or whatever. And I'm like, "Ooh, I get to play like Commander with Wizard of the Coast employees." Turns out they all have like degenerate broken decks, and I'm like, "What is this crap?" And he's got this high toughness blue black deck that's just like every turn I tap and mill you for 60, and then I play Keening Stone, and then mill you for another 60, and I'm like, "Oh, for Christ's sake, man, come on." And I'm sitting here with my like cool tribal deck, and what's it doing? It's tribal graveyard because it's dead. It's like God. Oh, I hate that deck. How's it going, Rebel?
It's going good. You bring back some good memories. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
I'm
time to bring back
remembering decks
Phoenix.
that have
Yeah.
been miserable in the past.
Oh, good old days of Narset and
Oh,
Rafiq.
Narset. Narset. Oh my God. If there was ever a commander I wanted banned, Narset is just so like I guess Narset's really not that big of a deal. But at the time, that card
Yeah,
sucked.
at the time was really hard to deal with.
Yeah, like, although the most memorable game of a commander I've ever played in my life, one person had a Narset deck, and they strapped it into an assault suit, and basically turned Narset into a hot potato that went around the table, and they had a whole bunch of other enchantments that said nobody can play on anybody else's turn or all these other stacksy type pieces. So the only way you could play is you would have this Narset that has to attack every turn, cannot attack the controller of the thing, and you have to cast whatever's in the top 4, and good luck if you don't have any instants or sorceries. GG. But it was
That's
like an
cool.
it was awesome. It was a sweet deck. It was an 8-player game. It was like
Oh,
me and Josh Lee Kwai and a whole bunch of other people, and we were just like, well, our decks are now on your merry-go-round. So whatever's going on, it was one of the sweetest decks I've ever seen, and also an experience I don't ever want to repeat. Um,
yeah.
it was awesome.
I made a Narset deck for cEDH a long time ago. And I was trying to do something that wasn't really turns or extra combat. And what I think I still did extra combat. I don't know. But the big thing I was trying to do was dump more walkers out as part
Ugh.
of like the Narset thing. And the thing that really solved the whole deck for me was this artifact called Paradox Engine. And then
Oh.
before I had the big reveal for this deck, yeah, that deck didn't live long.
Paradox Engine, for all the weirdos that it enabled, it was just I don't know how that card got out the door. Like that's one of those cards I look at. I'm like, how did you print this? Why would you print this? I mean, it looks cool, and in limited, it was sweet. But what are you thinking? Every now and then, Watsy just puts out a card that just makes you go like, I don't know what you were on that day, or maybe this was meant to be in a playtest and then removed but forgot. But like Paradox Engine or like KCI. KCI is another one of those decks where it's like cards where you're like, this is way better than you think it is. Or Oko,
Oh, Oko. Yeah.
the poster child of like, this is not what you intended.
Yeah, Oko is something special, all right.
Although I do remember when we had the RC meeting to discuss whether we should ban Oko in Commander after they banned it and like everything else, and the resounding answer was just lol. Like, are you kidding?
Wait.
That thing is like not going to make it around the table ever. And so yeah, it's fine. Everything is fine. Commander is fine. You're all fine.
Yes.
Can you tell me what it was like when Sheldon or whoever, how did you get on the CAG?
How did I get on the CAG?
I
Okay.
mean, I know, but the people don't.
All right. So here's how it went. I think it was early this year or end of last year.
Well,
all
I
I
know I'd been
remember.
advocating for you for like 2.5 years, for like maybe a year and a half now.
Yeah, I remember it was just really cold. and
Yeah, it was like
and
January or something,
I
wasn't it?
think so, yeah. And then Sheldon reached out to me to ask me like to talk about who I think should be on the RC. This was back when we first announced that they're looking to expand the RC and have some changes, right? So basically, we're having a conversation about, my thoughts on Commander, and then we got to the question about who should be on the RC. Um, and then Sheldon was like, you can nominate anyone you want, including yourself. And I was like, nah, no way, no way.
What?
Uh, so then, I
Sheldon never
actually,
nominated me for the RC.
so I gave my votes for who I think would be great on the RC. One of them made it, which is Jim. Jim's
Mm,
fantastic. Olivia's also fantastic. But at the time, I voted for Jim. Um, and then after a while, actually, I reached out to Sheldon because I thought uh, I was thinking a lot about how I initially reacted to when he asked me that question, and I was like a hard no, right?
mm,
And it's not so much that I thought I was lacking in expertise or I guess the ability to kind of do something like that or be in a similar position like a CAG member or whatever.
mm.
Just because my job involves like solving really big problems, right? I do a lot of business consulting and things like that. So to me, it's just like, this is just another big problem to solve. There's a large, like a really big ecosystem of like players and things and all these other relationships going on. So anyways, the long story short is that it wasn't really a thing about ability, but I realized after thinking about it, I just didn't think I look like someone who would be on the RC, right? Like the
Hmm.
at the time the RC just, you know, looks like judges.
I mean, that's fair.
Right? Just, someone who's older, who has
You would
experience.
have thought, oh,
And
look, there's a bunch of like old dudes and me.
yeah, exactly.
Young
So
pink haired Asian.
yeah, so then I reached out to Sheldon, after thinking about it, it's like, you know what? Actually, I would be interested. And I think the reason why I declined so quickly was because I couldn't fathom myself in a position like that, which means all the more reason I should apply for something like
Exactly.
that because that means someone else or other people in the community can actually imagine themselves in places where it doesn't
Yes,
have to
yes,
be
yes.
it doesn't have to be like you can be a RC member, right? Because the RC is quite small and like there is a limit, I think, to how
I
many
think we've hit
members
that
there will
limit,
be.
honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not so much like letting them imagine themselves in a place of administration, but to imagine themselves in a place of influence, right? So then someone can see like, wow, someone like me might not be in the RC, but someone like me, there's nothing stopping me from being able to do what I want to do because there are
Right.
other people who look like
I
me
mean,
or
that's a big part of why I wanted to be on the CAG is not necessarily because I want to be in charge of this device that I mean this organization or whatever, but more that it's like by being here and staying here, it means that people can look and see like, oh, there is opportunities for people like me to be able to do things like that and even imagine the such a thing is possible. Even if I don't agree with the guy who's in the seat, at least I know I could be in that seat. Right?
yeah.
I think that's very important. And I think that's like when they asked us internally, because we've been talking for like 2 years now about what does it mean to expand the CAG, expand the RC, especially as Sheldon's been progressing through his challenges with cancer. And we've been talking about like what does it mean? How do we evolve this thing? And they asked us individually, like, what are your people that you would want to add? And I was like, I want Wheeler, I want Revel, and I want Tim Willoughby on the CAG because you three are like three of the most brilliant people I know and represent different facets of the game. And also then I was like when they asked us for the promotion side, I mean honestly, I thought like you, Wheeler, and Jim should have been on the RC or like Olivia. Well, Olivia was almost a given because she is so good at this. She's
Yes.
so good at organization. She's so good at administration. She's so got such an innate understanding of Commander and what it means to play this game from like a societal standpoint. And like that was like the most no-brainer. Like when they announced her for the RC, I was like, yeah, there's no way that there's a better candidate right now than Olivia. And
Exactly,
like,
I agree.
and Jim was also just like, he's so good. He's so smart and knows is kind and smart and the exact type of person that I would want running the format. Like I'm clown shoes, right? Like I'm a little too hot-headed and a little too easy to pop off. Like I probably shouldn't be in the RC. I should be on the CAG, but I shouldn't be in the RC. But like you, I could totally see you doing that because you've also got that head, the very cool head, that very like balanced and understanding approach to this that makes you a good candidate for that. But having you on the CAG is also great because effectively it's the same. We're still able to tap into that, and you get to
Yes,
represent an entire class onto yourself. There's not a lot of pink haired AIs in the RC.
that's true. That's true. Not yet. We'll see. We'll see what next year
Yeah,
brings,
like
you
when
know.
we promote Sharon Apple to join, right? Like, there's your dated reference for you. Oh man, but I was super excited when you came on, which incidentally still makes me laugh. It's like our first interaction is still you calling me a C
A C
list,
tier, yeah.
C
C-lister, yeah.
C tier, like trash, like commander
I didn't
comments.
say trash.
You
I just called you a
you implied
C-lister.
it though, and
You
here I
attacked
am.
my soul ring, and now you get to be called a C-lister. That's how it goes.
You
That's
know, the other day, somebody took my, Nethroid deck out and was playing with it, and they looked and they saw, "What is this Findhorn card on here?" And I was like, "Well, my friend has made a note of every time my own Findhorn elf attacks me."
you know, today you posted a lucky clover, right, on
Mhm.
Twitter. Um, I remember one commander game where I made an adventures deck when Eldraine came out, and I animated the lucky clover, and I started hitting people with it. And the lucky clover dealt a lot of damage, and I was
Can
really
you
happy with
imagine
that.
how embarrassing that would be to just get beat down by a lucky.
I think that's kind of my favorite thing to do is like find some really inconsequential or tiny little thing, creature, and then like deal a
Just
lot of
win.
damage to
Just
someone. Because I also saw Donna on Twitter saying that he dislikes treasure goad and treasures the most as mechanics, and I was thinking like, what if what if I animated treasures and then gave it goad?
Oh, Jesus Christ. If you, like, animate people's treasures and then just start goading them so that they have to throw coins at each other.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's such a good deck idea.
Oh my
Someone
god,
else
why isn't
can
there a
make it.
commander that just lets you give other people treasures and then, like, animate them and, like, turn them into mimics or something and just, like, start thwapping people with I mean, it's like the Japanese, like, what is that, that summon you can get in all the, Final Fantasy games, the dude who attacks you by throwing gill at you?
Oh, I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's got, like, he's a very typical samurai dude, and somebody's gonna yell at me about this,
Yeah.
but still though, it's like throwing gill at people or throwing like gold and treasure tokens at people just makes me laugh. Like that idea makes me laugh a lot.
When we
Um,
go back to New Capenna, maybe.
just start fling, or like if we ever do a Mistborn set and just start flinging metal coins at people. Um, Gosh, man, there is something fun though about like animating dumb things and then just crushing
Yes.
people with them.
Yes.
Like, I still think back to, like, that vintage game where somebody won with an animated Black Lotus, and, like, if you die to a Black Lotus that just thwaps you in the face for 3 or something, that's magic at Richard Garfield intent.
I have this fantastic win that I always remember. This is back in college. I started a magic club,
Mm.
as you do. and and then someone decided to bring like a friend over who was a lot more spiky, and I was watching him play with one of my other friends, and my other friend wasn't quite as experienced, but he like bought into a standard deck. So the what's amazing about this is that the person's at one life, this opponent's at one life, and my friend has actually, no. Okay, here's the story. My opponent, let's say, has two life,
Hmm.
and my friend has a Birds of Paradise and a Hell Rider. Um, do you know what Hell Rider does?
No.
So Hell Rider says, whenever a creature you control attacks, Hell Rider deals 1 damage to your opponent. It's actually a very strong card.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
it's 4
seems really
mana
good.
and red, it's very, very good. So, the person had removal for the Hell Rider and anticipated just taking 1 damage, but then I told my friend, "Attack of all your creatures." I didn't specify, like, the birds, I just said, "Attack with all your creatures," to not give away the birds, because I assumed they're not assuming. Yes, 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 you see where this is going. So, he taps both creatures and deals 2 damage to them, and he goes, "No, you'll deal 1." I'm like, "No, the birds can attack. It's 0 power, but it still triggers Hell Rider." And he was very upset and asked for a game 2.
Yes. That 0 point. It doesn't have
Yep.
defender, buddy. You can still attack. Sometimes you just do it to send a message, and that message is 1 point to your face. Ba-dang.
It's something so satisfying about, like,
Oh my
just those
god.
little guys influencing
Winning
the
with a
games.
0 powered creature is one of the most satisfying ways to win. It's so dumb. Oh my god. Oh my god. That is Magic the way I wanna play it,
Mhm.
where you're just winning with stupid things. Or, like, that's why I love, like, when you take something like, I've played the Ornithopter of Paradise in my Mazzy deck, and I love to just load it down with, like, auras and things, and people always look at that like, "Oh, I don't wanna waste my removal on that stupid Ornithopter," and I'm like, "Well, it's gonna come and hit you with, like, a Bear Umbra in 10 seconds, so you better do something," and it's, like, just crunching in. Ah, it's so good. It makes me so happy. I love dumb magic like that. Give me 9 drops or give me, like, 0 drops, like,
Yeah.
nothing in
Nothing in
between.
between.
Which is why Bro is such a good set for me. It's all 9 drops or 0 drops.
Bro is a great set.
Oh my
I
god, it's
love a
so
lot of the
much
cards
fun.
in it.
I was going through my, set box today, and I got both halves of Urza, but only 1 half of Mishra, and 0 halves of Titania, and I'm like,
Oh,
"That tells the story right there."
yeah.
But man, my Titania deck has never had so many upgrades at once before. It's like, "Hey, make room for, like, 30 new Titanias, let's go."
Oh,
Um
I haven't upgraded my decks in so long. I'm
Oh, yeah.
honestly, I'm just a little worried, like, if I ever actually sit down and, like, try and upgrade my deck, I will have to go through all those sets that came
It's
out.
so many. Oh my god. Like, I'm looking at my soldier deck. I've been slowly just building up a pile of cards to add into my soldiers deck, and I'm like, "God, forget adding in the cards or having to go through the sets. I have to figure out what I have to cut from the damn deck."
Yeah, and it's hard.
That's no like, no thank you. That
You
sucks.
sometimes I think it's fine, actually just to leave your deck the way it is. Like,
Yeah, sure.
if you enjoy it, there's no reason for you to, like, actually have to upgrade it, right? Like,
Mhm.
my Bolus roleplay deck, which is my favorite decks, and Rachel's favorite deck, I know. Um, I haven't touched that deck ever since I made it, basically. I added some cards from Strixhaven because I thought they were cool, but that's
Yeah.
it. Like, I never feel the need to change that deck because to
Yeah,
me, it's good the way it is.
my Hapatra deck is basically sealed in gold. It's like all the -1/-1 counter stuff in there, everything it does, it's exactly what I want it to do. There's no cards I wanna cut, there's nothing I wanna add, so I've just left it ossified, foiled it out, and just leave it alone because, like, I don't I don't wanna mess with it. The deck is perfect. It works, it does a thing. My zombies deck, I think I finally got to a point where it's similarly exactly where I want it to be, so I'm just gonna leave it alone because why mess with a good thing? Like,
Exactly.
I'll build another zombies deck if I wanna build a wheel hut deck or whatever. Just leave the good one alone. But my soldiers deck, though, it's hard to say no to when they're printing cards specifically for me
Yeah,
for it. Like
especially Bro.
this stupid mythic, platoon dispenser, which is
Oh,
like
that's such a good card.
yeah, at the end of your beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more creatures, you draw a card, and then you can just make soldier tokens, and for some reason it has unearth, I don't know why. Um, or this stupid siege veteran, which is like, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a 1/1 counter on thing like Luminarch Ascension. But when another non-token soldier you die, you get a soldier token. And I'm like, this is how can I
Yeah.
not run this in my soldier deck? These are like guaranteed. I have to put them in. But that's annoying to me
Yes, because you have to find
because then I
which
have
one
to like,
gets the axe
yeah, like who
after their
dies?
loyalty to you for so long, all the years of service, and
Yeah,
this
but
is
then you
what you
sit there
do?
and go like, dude, I don't need a wheel of misfortune. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay,
UGs.
yeah, you can get rid of that wheel. No one likes it.
Like in Titania, I'm like taking out fecundity because it's like it's fine, but I would much rather have the new Titania in there than like a enchantment that's not doing a ton. You know,
Yeah,
like
I definitely agree with that kind of, like, I don't know, uh, card evaluation or whatever. It's just, like, getting rid of, cards that are generically good and
yeah,
putting more things that are, like, really fun for your theme. No, I'm all about that.
yeah. Like I don't know. I had this weird revelation. Like there was a moment in there where like I wasn't playing any generically good cards in any of my decks, and I was like, I keep missing out on all these giantly fun Magic cards that are just cool, like Cauldron of Souls or whatever. But then those are also the first cards I end up cutting when I'm like adding new cards because like I still want to go back to the theme. I want to. How can I mean? I'm not going to not put a Titania in my Titania deck. Like, come on. I don't know. They're just like there's some cards which are like they're fine, they're cool, but you could also have cool and thematic. Might as well, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I just think like I don't like to change my decks too much because it's such a bookkeeping asshole, and also just anxiety again, right? Like putting them in the first time and cutting from 600 to 60 or whatever is just like, but then having to like go through and like find the one dead card in your thing, you're like, oh,
My least favorite thing to do, is keeping an online version of my casual decks or my commander decks. Cause that stuff changes on a whim. I'm not gonna go maintain that stuff. Sometimes I'll find a card on my desk and be like, "Cool, that's what I want," and I'll swap it with something else.
yeah, right. But that's also why when we look at the top cards on EDH rec, they're all like hyper cEDH cards are all
Yeah,
at the top. And
because
everyone's like,
because
what do you
people like
mean?
us aren't doing our part and uploading the
Yeah,
fun.
like because the cEDH community has got like 700 deck lists,
Yup.
and they just clone it and make another deck list. And people are like, what do you mean? There's no cEDH cards. I'm like, dude, when Talisman of Hierarchy is in like the top two rows, like the talismans are not casual cards. Like, don't tell me they are. You know, like those are cards played by like people who need fast mana right now. And who is that? Hmm.
Well, I'd argue Talisman is actually, like, a casual card as well.
I guess so.
I
I mean,
think
like, yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
a
its own ramp,
hyperbolic
right?
statement. I'll
Like,
say that.
I'm just trying to make sure that you don't get in trouble from your
Oh,
audience,
me get in trouble
'cause
for saying
they'll go on
something?
Twitter and be like, "Shivam, you C-lister, how dare you say Talisman's for
Okay,
cEDH
but you
players
can't tell me
only?"
the Mystic Remora is a casual card.
I mean, what if you like fishies a lot, It's an
Nobody does.
enchantment
No,
deck and you like
nobody likes
fishies?
fish. Nobody likes fishies that much. And all the free spells. Okay, free spells are an everybody card, but you understand what I'm saying though.
Yes, yes, I understand what you're saying.
Anyways, the point is though, like it is just a pain to update your deck list because it's like whatever. And what if I like play it and I don't like it and I'd have to go back and undo it and meh, who cares? But with my Nira deck though, I've started copying new iterations and posting new ones so that because like I want to keep track of like the history of what
Yeah.
cards I've tried. And it's because like that deck is the most fluid deck I've ever built. Cause like I'm like, oh look, let me just swap this cantrip for that one, see which one does better. Or like what do I want to actually flip into, right? Like especially since they just put out that stupid new blue red card in Bro, which is like every time you cast a spell, get a 1/1 soldier token. And I'm like,
Oh,
well,
Third Path Iconoclast,
that's
yes.
so good, that card.
Yes, I want to play that card in
That card
everything.
is nutty. And it's like young peasy. It's like all of these cards, but does exactly the thing I want
I was
and
playing
lets me use my pile
Legacy
of soldiers.
the other day, and Young Peasy, man, so good. I know, like, Young Peasy's always really good, but for the deck I was playing, Young Peasy was really performing, and I was so happy with it.
Like that's the thing about this Nira deck of mine is that makes me happy is like I get to play all these cards like Young Peasy, like Talrand, like all these things that are just like cards that make a crap ton of tokens that I just
Mhm.
don't ever get to play otherwise. But there's something about cards like Monastery Mentor that's just like this card is good. This card's awesome. Like, how did I forget about this stupid card? Um, God,
Yeah,
Mentor.
I wanna play Monastery Mentor. I love cards like that. I like, is it Sedgemoor Witch? Which no, 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 the
No, that's the
Strixhaven
one
one.
that's got Ward 3 life.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is the one that makes the bugs.
Um, it
You know what
makes
I'm talking
bugs
about?
when you
There
cast
yeah,
spells?
there's one that there's like a 3 mana black, wizard that makes 1/1 bugs from, Strixhaven, I think.
Man, I
Yeah,
need to
it's
go back through Strixhaven because I feel like I gave that set not nearly enough time for as many awesome cards are in there. Uh,
I wanna play that too. Very cool.
that set is great. Um, I'm like just coming around now to like all of these stupid that set of cards that were in there that were like it costs 4 to do a thing, or you can pay 1 in a black or like 1 in X or something and like let them draw a card and also do the
Yeah.
thing. And it's like that's so good. Um, yeah, what the hell, man? There are a lot of good Strixhaven cards, but Sedgemoor Witch, whenever you cast or copy a sorcery spell, create a 1/1 black pest creature token. So it was the
Yes.
same card. You were right. That card is sick.
Yes.
It's got
Very
menace, it's
excited.
got ward, and it's got make a crap ton of tokens.
Really good card.
And the good tokens too.
Mhm.
Oh man, what a good card. I don't even have a deck that would be good in, but like what does a black spellslinger deck look like?
A lot of dead creatures.
Like terror. It's like mono terror dot deck.
Yeah,
Terrors and doom blades and just like really it seems like a really annoying deck.
and you just hope there's no other mono black deck on the other side.
Oh man, I forgot about these stupid Warhammer cards. Um,
Oh, the 40K cards?
yeah,
Yo, the 40K cards, I didn't realize the Necron deck is, like, so critical to, like, so many artifacts and, like,
the
other
mono black one,
strategies
right?
now. Yeah, the mono black,
That deck is
Necron deck, yeah.
bananas. That
I
deck is
haven't
so
played it,
dumb.
but a lot of the cards in it are actually very strong, so very
No
surprised.
kidding. I mean, that deck is absurdly powerful. And even with that stupid like whatever one or more artifacts leaves your graveyard, create 2/2/2 Necrons.
Yeah.
It's just like that's dumb. I don't know. I was that mono black deck is sick. It is absolute. Yeah, you're a Warhammer fan. What do you think of the Warhammer decks?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. I really like the Warhammer decks. I think they're really well built. Obviously, and they're very strong. I'm trying to think.
Have you gotten a chance to play them yet?
I actually haven't had any chance to play them yet because I do have the precons, but
Hmm.
I'm a little worried of opening them right now because
I
they're so
know.
expensive outside.
I opened a set of them just because I was like, I want to look at these. I want to put them in sleeves. I want to mess around with it. But dude, these decks are so well built.
Yeah,
It's scary how good they are. Like,
I think the theming and everything, all of it is like really good. I guess like some parts of me really wished they had like an orc deck. Like I really, really, really wanted an orc deck. I think
mm.
that would be super funny. Because just the orcs have just so much like space to make something really entertaining, and I think that it like the orcs also represents a really important part of 40K, which is like 40K is obviously over the top grimdark, but it's also like
Silly.
funny. It's really funny. Like funny, like you're not supposed to take it seriously, which is why I think having orcs there would have like really, sold the idea like this is comically,
Yeah,
grimdark.
no, but the decks we got were all just like Murder Town, right?
Yeah.
Like complete, just like thematically horrifying
And
death
my
dealing.
my hot take for like 40K decks is that I wish they were like less playable. I wish they were like they matched the lore where like a single space marine their bolt guns are shooting each bullet's a mini nuke, and then they have like impervious armor, so each single space marine is like 30 mana.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Like 40K decks don't start, like the game doesn't start until you have like all the lands out. See, that's the experience I know they had to design it in a way
They have
where
to make it actually
it's
playable Magic
actually
cards.
playable, but to me, like, I really wanted, like, this is the 40K experience. Like, one Space Marine will take out Emrakul, no problem.
Yeah, but if you can get that damn Space Marine out in the first place,
Yeah, buy your sneak attacks, you know?
I'm sad that they didn't find some way to make, like, spacing and, like, board, like, positioning matter the way that one 40K meme guy did. The dude who just lined up his entire army on one side of the wall.
Yeah, the famous anti-cheeser,
Yes.
where someone's trying to use a cheese strategy for people who don't know who are listening. Basically, I think it works where there's like a rule for 40K, where you can have like a certain amount of your army like in reserve and then like strike them in or like teleport them in on like one edge of the board. So how he always won was basically having most of his like army, they're all on motorcycles, like off in reserve, I think.
Yep.
And then when the game starts, he puts it all in one spot and then takes over. So the other player then decides to put one like equally space all of their entire army around
Yeah,
the
like, they're all,
ring.
like, 2 inches apart all the
Yes,
way across the
around
entire
the
board.
board, so the other army can't deep
There was,
strike
like
in.
yeah, there's no entry point, and,
Yeah,
like, it was just it's one of the most funny,
and
just,
and
like
and it's, like, such a good photo too, because the photo is the guy who performed, like, the anti-cheese with, like, his thumbs up, and then the other player who plays with that cheesy strategy is in the back looking kinda upset, talking to a judge, flipping through a rule book.
yeah, it's a gigantic 3-ring binder in his polo
Yeah,
shirt, and it's just it's so funny. Like, the dude just got this, like, big, this, like, wide grin, and they're, like, completely just, um I love that. I love that story so much because it's like, that guy made a deck. I mean, basically made an army that's, like, useless for everything but this one thing,
yeah.
just to turn just to stop this one guy, and I'm like, I appreciate that kind of petty. That's the kind
I
of petty I aspire to.
I actually think Warhammer, like the Warhammer community, is a lot more similar to the Commander community than like people realize. Because if you try to play Warhammer, and like go to your LGS and like bring like a meta army, it's actually
You're
oh,
tapping something?
oh yeah, I'm tapping something. Sorry.
Okay.
uh, yeah, if you try to bring like a meta army into your like LGS, like, people actually don't really like that unless they're playing, like, a meta army. Most people buy into Warhammer because they either like the lore or they like the idea of creating their own lore, and it's about making something cool and
Mhm.
making an army that they enjoy. Like, if they like, these models, like, I don't know, like, if they like the look of the werewolf models from, Space Wolves or whatever, they want a whole army of them, right? And they wanna play, against people who are like, "Oh, I just like the people with jump packs, so I make a whole army of jump pack guys and painted them like red," right? They want to play those games versus like bring their werewolves and getting like seeing these titans and like it's just like,
And just getting
oh
completely wiped by some table.
yeah, because the way you like build a optimized army back in the day, it just doesn't even look like I guess a thematic army. Like they used to call them soup like armies,
Mhm.
which is basically like soup decks, right? It's the same thing
Yeah.
as four color soup. You get the
It's
most
good stuff.
optimized thing. Yeah, it's all the good stuff. So when you look at it that way, it's like, yeah, both communities are very similar because both players just want to express themselves through creating something and meet other players who do the same thing. And by playing together, you create this story where like your army fights each other, these
Right.
heroic moments, and you have a beer and have a good time and go home, right? And the
Right.
same thing as Commander.
Exactly that. But it's like, and I think, to an extent, I feel like we've lost some of that, but we've also gained a lot of that. Like, WotC has been going out of their way to make more niche, weirdo tribal commanders that'll let you tell a story instead of just generic good stuff. But then they also release partners, infinite partners, to basically make your soup decks. So it's like, the challenge is, how do you make it so that soup decks and like theme decks don't just hate each other and ruin their evenings? And that's like, you got to find chairs to sit at that are not going to, like, we just got to
Well,
communicate.
I actually really, really like the partners they made in Commander Legends 1. Yeah. I think those are really well designed because I felt like the each partner commander is very clear in what they want to do in like a singular theme, and you get to do cool themes like if you get, I think it's Ik Ik or whatever, the golem guy, like if you put Ik
Mm-hmm.
Ik and then like
Tic
Radiant
tac.
together, uh that's a golem artifact angels deck, right? Like green white.
Mm,
That's just cool, right? You
yes.
do elves and angels, whatever.
Yeah, I think
So
the second batch of partners was really
yes,
cool for all that they also had some degenerate dudes in there,
yeah,
but like, Jessica or whatever. But the
the
having
original ones,
those first 15,
yeah.
which were like at the time, I was one of the biggest defenders and I think they're really, really cool. But making them two color in the first place was probably the mistake they made.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to like, I
I
guess
mean, there's no way to tell. You can't tell what's going to
exactly
do that.
because before we had 5 color decks and 5 color decks were obviously strong, but I think there was always some drawback to 5 color decks back in the day because a
Mainly
lot
because the
of
five
them
color commanders all
just
sucked.
weren't very good. Yeah, right. Like we didn't have Kenrith yet. We didn't
Yeah,
have
like we had
Sisay.
what the choices you had? You had Slivers, you had Child of Alara, and you had like what the hell the Scarecrow, Reaper King.
Oh yeah, Reaper King. Yeah. Oh, actually, I used to know someone with there's another 5 color commander. It's like a big monster. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh,
Not it's not Sliver Queen. Chromat.
yes, Chromat, which had amazing artwork and useless abilities.
Yeah. So anyways, back in the day, you 5 color decks just weren't super good, I think. Because the really good decks were like as we were talking about earlier, Narset, Rafik, things where the
Mm,
commander gives you like a really strong benefit, like even Phoenix, right? Phoenix was a
yeah.
really strong commander because just the ability was just very good. Even you can say Doran's very good, stuff like that. Carador was very good. So
Wow, we're
I
going
think,
back.
yeah, we didn't I think it's important to think about the what Commander looked like back then, because the only way for you to play 4 color was rule zeroing one of the Nephilims. So
Hmm.
how are you supposed to know that if you take Timna and you put it with Crom, plus all the new cards that came out, you were going to make such an incredible like pair, right? Like
Right.
even when those partners came out, Timna Crom wasn't very popular until like very late in the game. And like I guess more recent now. Like Thrasios was obviously I think very good because everyone can recognize how good Simic is and just like pay mana and like get more lands or draw a card. Like he's obviously very good. Timna, I think, might have taken a little bit to
I
like
think Timna caught everybody off guard because it's like the card is so innocuous, right?
yes,
Like lifelink at the beginning of your at the beginning of your post combat main phase, you could pay X life or X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards. So and it's in white black, so people are looking at it like I have to attack a whole bunch of people and then pay
yeah.
life to draw a card. That seems weird and kind of
And
weak.
how do you even like get those creatures there, right? Like
Yeah,
you have to connect first and either pay life to draw
yeah,
more cards. And then you like why would I play this over Rafik, right?
right.
Or something like that just immediately gives you something. So to be fair, I do think those original partners like just was hard to see how impactful it would be. And then now, especially now, with all the new commander cards, just made it a really big issue because now you just also get all the free counters, you know,
Mm.
all the other benefits of like all the colors and just, make it really
And I
streamlined.
think you actually nailed it right there when you were saying like the key difference here is the abilities, right? Like even the weakest ones, like Akiri Lineslinger, which it gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and First Strike and Vigilance. That card is still a house if you're attaching it to like Thrasios or something where you're getting all these other artifacts energies, or like Silas Wren or something, and like even like the thing is, all these cards they were like we need to make them weak, but even the weak ones ended up just being huge. I think probably the weakest one is like Sidar Kondo, maybe, or
Yeah.
like Tana the Blood Tower. I don't know. Like even they're still good, right? Like all of these are just like when you look at these 15 Ludovic's Opus. When I first saw that, I was like, this card sucks. Right? It's
Yeah.
a
Everyone
4/4 flying
thought it
haste for
sucks.
5, and it draws you a card if they cast 2 spells. How is that even playable?
I think
Whoops.
even for CDH, I mean, I'm not gonna, I don't know exactly if this is the case, But I think the only reason why Crom was played for the CDH deck of Tim Crom back in the day was because it was just a like a better you want they want the deck wanted blue and red and white and black for a wheels deck to stop flash and you know Crom just is as a beater is more useful than Ludwig himself, and Crom
Yeah.
might like I think the thinking was like maybe you draw one card like a cycle, maybe
Yeah.
two
I
or
mean,
a
if nothing
couple,
else, it's a 4/4 flying haste. That's still something.
and then people played with it and was like, oh, Crom's pretty good.
It turns out drawing one card on everybody else's turn is pretty busty. It's pretty nutty.
Yeah,
Maybe the worst one is Kaideli. I don't know, tap
yeah,
to gain a mana for each card you drew.
it's
I mean, that's
still
still
pretty good.
busted, but it's not like it's yeah, gosh, these originals were all really, really strong cards.
I still think that back then it was a little hard to see how
Oh,
oppressive
there's
they
no
would
way to
be
know. Like
without. Yeah,
in a void, all of these just look kind of eh. Even Thrasios, which is absurd, absurd card, still is kind of like I mean,
because you can make the argument like when you look at Thrasios itself,
it's a coiling
um,
oracle.
without ever playing with Thrasios, right? Or like when you're
Yeah,
designing it, you know, you play a 2 mana guy and then you have to tap 4 mana to get a land or maybe draw a card in a game of Commander when you could like, you know,
do
spend that
anything.
turn to play Land War Elves Kodama's Reach, right? And then
Right.
play like whatever. You could actually do stuff. And then Thrasios, or you can pay 4 mana to like only get a land or draw a card. So I think like, you know, it's fair to like to assume that they were balanced. It's just all the new cards, all
Yeah.
the new like, you know, I think design philosophy where like you have really good cards from Modern Horizons 2, Modern Horizons 1, all that stuff just like making
Can you
all those
imagine
colors
how different it
stronger.
would have been if Thrasios tapped?
Yeah.
Like if you had to tap Thrasios to use it, that card would be so much more fair instead of just this stupid like turbo through your whole damn deck.
Yeah.
Like it's not like Simic didn't have infinite combos back then. Like come on, a 2-drop Simic commander even by itself is still going to be busted.
Yeah. And then once you play with Thrasios, you're like, yeah, you know what? Four
This is dumb.
mana, 4 mana, draw a card or ramp is actually pretty good. I'll just do that over doing
I'll
anything
just
else
do
in my hand.
that forever all the time. Like it's just better.
Yeah.
Um the quality of cards you're getting is just better. But yeah, like I don't know, it's partners is weird. And like so I guess we should transition from that into like what do you think where do you think EDH is now? I guess we didn't actually finish talking about how you got onto the CAG though, right? Like
Oh yeah, so we did a couple more interviews, and then after
did you talk
those
to the other guys?
oh, of course I did, yeah. Uh, and we had really great conversations. Um, and then afterwards, you know, we just decided that the CAG is a good place for me, and
Hmm.
that's where I am.
Yeah, it's funny because like I remember when like because also internally we went through multiple rounds of talking about who we wanted and stuff, and Sheldon like turns to me in like the chat room and he's like, "And you can stop saying Wheeler and Rebel. We've already talked. It's fine. Chill. I know who you want. Relax." And I'm like, "Mm, fine, fine, whatever."
We're here together now. We vibing in the same chat room now.
Yeah, it's a good time. Um, of course, this year has been really randomly quiet for Commander, so it's like I don't know. Where do you think we are as a format?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Uh, give me a little bit more constraint. What do you mean by
Okay,
where?
so given the cards that have come out, let's say in the past 2 years,
Yeah,
so from Kaldheim forward,
yeah.
where do you think Commander like given now that we've got all these free spells, given we've got these elementals from Modern Horizons, and like CEDH is now settling into its own real meta that's like defined and that people actually know about and understand, and pub stompers have stopped pub stomping and are starting to move into meta CEDH decks, and it feels like the community has kind of calmed down in the past year or so. Even though we're getting just more cards than we've ever gotten before, more commander playable cards than we've ever gotten before. Do you think the format's in a good place right now, or do you think that there's stuff that we could be doing on the leadership side to help shake it up or fix, I don't know, problems that have been popping up.
So I think the game itself, is in a it's in a good place, as we said earlier. There's nothing like, really bad coming
Egregious.
out. Yeah, nothing really egregious. The play experience is fine. I think there are a lot of players who are concerned about how optimized Commander is getting, not in the cEDH space, but just Commander in general. I
Hmm.
think there's just, as I think about it this way, right? Commander uh, includes cards from every single format or every single set from the beginning of time, right? So as we continue to print more, every single set that gives us one really strong card, you know, adds that list of just auto include really powerful cards like Ragavan, right? Ragavan is just incredible. If you're playing red, you most likely want to play Ragavan or Jessica's Will or Dockside Extortionist, right? Like the list kind of goes on. Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting SWAT, all those things. And every product that we get, and there's a lot of products right now, um, I think I think it feels like there's less and less space for you to do something kind of what you originally might have wanted for Commander, which is play goofy things, right?
Hmm.
And I think people can always will eventually make the conscious decision to be like, I'm gonna play like 50% goofy and 50% like good cards, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think there's like a slight concern that uh Commander overall just is getting faster and more optimized, and there's potentially
Mm.
less space to explore because there's just good cards everywhere. Now I don't think that's necessarily like true, but I think like that is like a shared sentiment, I guess,
Mm.
amongst players. And maybe, one thing we could do is just remind players, as we do, that it's okay to make a deck full of commons, like, or like make a whatever, I have this deck. It's really funny. It's Kelith, and I forgot what the other one is. It's the horse and the cat from Commander Legends 1.
Yes.
Um, and that deck,
No, they were in Legends 2,
to
weren't they? No. You're right, you're right.
yeah, so
I'm sorry.
Commander Legends 2 Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, Commander Legends 1, you're right, you're
Yeah. So I have a cat and a horse deck. And
right.
already really funny. And that deck is just all protection because there's nothing else to it. There's all protection removal, and it's just a cat and a horse. And I tell everyone, this is how the deck works. I kick you to death with the horse, or the cat, right? The usual thing I like to do.
You're a
Um,
Mercedes Lackeys novel come to
yeah,
life.
it's just like wild deck. Like I like making these decks where they're unsleeved and it's just like a bunch of cards I grab from my little drawer and like enjoy it, right?
It's a mono desktop covered cards dot deck.
Yeah, so I think it's just important with like shows and also media, like, not, I guess media is the right word, and just personalities to show that it's still totally valid to build weird decks and have a really good time like with other players playing that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
um Another thing I think is important for the community or format overall, and this one I think is more closer to me, is learning how to I guess include new voices in our space better. And the new voices for me is a lot of the old school pro players who have like their own like opinions and thoughts on how the format should be like. And
Mm,
see, wait, let me finish. I think there's a lot of really valid reasons for both, like kind of like casual and competitive like individuals to have their own perspectives and reasons why like they feel like their opinion is more, like their perspective is more valid or something like that. But I think the important part isn't so much who's more valid, but creating a platform or a space where both everyone can discuss Commander and maybe progress the thinking of Commander in a way that's more constructive and feel less personal. I think that's like where like I guess one of my big things is because Commander, like I think for this year in particular, at least for CDH, has like grown phenomenally,
Mm.
phenomenally. I think I forgot which Command Fest it was. There was one particular Command Fest where we played CDH, and then I came back, and on Twitter everyone was talking about CDH, like everyone. And then like a lot of people just suddenly started playing CD, like a lot of people who don't play Commander just start playing CDH. And I think throughout the year we just got more and more people. We have more tournaments, and then we have like uh actual pro players now, like, playing
Yeah, like
CDH, right?
watching Matt Sperling of all people delve into CDH is wild.
Yeah.
Like Sperling and Sam Black and like well, Sam has been
Well,
playing
Sam
more
Black's not
casual.
CDH.
Sam
Yeah.
Black is playing like just weird EDH. He's on a different planet of Commander sometimes.
But I
But
think it's
like
important for us to give a platform to Sam Black to like talk about, things we might not have thought about, right? And it's not
I mean,
and I
dude is one of
and
the best in all time weirdo deck builders.
yes.
But there's
So
some fundamental things that they just that there's some cultural things, and we're always going to have these kind of cultural clashes until people kind of get a feel for what it's like. But we've got to allow people to have room to make these kinds of mistakes because nobody comes in knowing everything, right?
yeah. Like, and I wouldn't even like, I guess some of them could be defined as mistakes, but
I wouldn't
like
say mistakes, but I
yeah,
mean
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Okay.
faux pas or just like misunderstandings of like I mean I think one of the weird things is that there's been growing pains between people who are like entering the format from other formats that have different objectives and different mindsets and are much more competitive, much more hardcore. And they come in, they're like, why wouldn't you just wasteland the person's only island? Like, you want to win. And I'm like, yeah, but they also have to sit here for the next 2 hours. So maybe let's let them play. And like those are things I was like,
Yeah.
not necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying you need to coddle like the weaker players, but it's more like understand the goal of what the people who are sitting at the table want. And the fact that the goal is not to progress to the next round, the goal is to play this round. Right?
Yeah, I kind of so earlier, like way earlier this year, I was talking with Alan, for mental misplay for everyone who's listening. Uh we were talking about, I forgot how we got into discussion, but we were talking about the future of CDH, what my prediction was for this year. And my thinking was that as Commander becomes ever more popular and ever more central to the brand of Magic and how people uh kind of assume Magic is played, there's going to be a bigger, more conscious push towards other players from other formats to play Commander, because that's where the content is, right? Like it just that's where the traffic and the
That's where
numbers
the
are.
players are.
Yeah. So I was imagining that eventually, like pro players will actually just start playing it because like the publisher is like, we need you to write about Commander now because everybody wants Commander content, so let's get Reed Duke to write about it.
Yeah,
uh
exactly. Poor Reed walked into that with no he got just like hated on for no reason. His article is entirely fine, entirely mundane because he's just like, "Hey, you know what? I was told to write about Commander, so I'm going to write about Commander this week." And then like people are just like Reed Duke is telling you to like, remember to pack your like land destruction. It's like, "Oh, guys, give him a chance. Like he'll
so
get
I think
there."
my point here is just like, I think there's going to be even more of that, right?
Of
It's
course there is.
just Commander, especially now we're getting like a competitive Commander is getting even more visibility, right?
Mhm.
There's just naturally going to be more desire to create more content and integrate more, or like have more people enter the space, right? And I think it's really, really important for us to understand how to make their transitions, or like how to integrate them in a way that doesn't create another situation like Reed Duke, right? And
Yeah.
I totally get like the reactions to these kind of things, right? And it's just understanding how to like communicate or solve some of the
Yeah.
fears of having like players like that voice their, I guess, perspectives on the game.
Well, because I mean, like, part of the backlash is obviously like, this is my clubhouse. I have been here since you guys wouldn't let me into the big one. Now you're coming in and throwing me out of my clubhouse. But
Yeah,
then there's also the like, well, they don't know anything about Commander, and they're going to come in and try to plant their thing and blah blah. It's like there's a lot of just very expected and very typical reactions to when new people enter your space. But you're right though. If Magic is going towards Commander, if all the design is going towards Commander, if Standard and Pioneer and everything are basically becoming what Commander was, and Commander is taking their place, then yeah, these guys whose entire industry and business is based on Magic are gonna have to pivot to doing this thing instead of that thing. That's like when all these old radio broadcasters jumped into podcasting, right? Like, or like all these stand-up comedians or whatever, because like that's where the audience is. And if you want to be in the business, you got to pivot to where the audience is. It means that, yeah, like folks like me are going to be here getting shoved out of the way by, your Brad Nelsons and your Reed Dukes. But also, there's a billion jillion Commander players and they all want content. There's room for all of us.
Yeah, I think that fear is super super valid because
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
felt the
man.
same way too, right? Especially as a competitive commander content creator. I was talking with Alan, I was telling him like there's two outcomes for us. If competitive commander becomes bigger and competitive commander content becomes even more I guess
I mean,
in
it's like
demand.
Popper, right?
Yeah, either publishers will seek talent that naturally are within the space, or they will bring other people to start, evolving the thinking of this the space, and then we kind of I wouldn't I think getting pushed out is like such a
It's such
not
a
low.
dramatic term.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, you're still gonna be there. So,
Like,
I I do think that it's like, a natural way of thinking because it's just you assume that there's only so much space, right? If someone else sits on this couch, it's gonna get really tight. But I think just because, like
fun is a zero sum game.
yeah, I think it's like if Brad Nelson, Reed Duke writes about Commander, there are Commander players who are just interested in what Shivam has to say, right? Like they're just interested in the type of game that you want to play or the things that you like saying and not necessarily as interested in what like Reed Duke might have to say and vice versa, right? There are a lot of players who are just like, oh, I just want to know what Reed Duke says. What's a Shivam, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
so I think it's not so much like that they're gonna push people out. It's just offering more, you know, more flavors of ice cream.
I
Some
mean,
people like vanilla, some people like chocolate. That's it.
I'm honestly of the opinion that this is only good for us
Yes.
because if we get more differentiation in our content, if we get more people writing and talking about different sides of the content, and by this I mean also having more people on the casual side, because I feel like we need to have more people on the casual side to match what
Yes.
folks are doing on the CDH side, which is so good. CDH content is so well done and well produced, and we need to have more on the casual side to match that. But by having the panoply of content, we allow the spectrum of players to be able to go where they want to go, find each other, play, and have a good time, as opposed to sitting and just trying to, you know, have the entire flood going out through one door. We have multiple doors open that they can go through, right? Like this way, we end up with a lot less um, clashes about what the culture of Commander should be or what people should be playing or something. It's like, no, now we know there's different segments. The person that you want to cater to you is right there writing for you, and we can all still just sit and enjoy the game together.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
also I don't think the segments are that clearly like,
Yeah, they're
separated
not.
too,
They're
right?
absolutely
Yeah.
not.
So it's just having more perspectives and more offerings is good on both extremes, right? As
Mm,
we were saying earlier, for all the optimization we want, we also just want to have a lot of representation of like just really fun ways to play and like
yeah.
you also not even fun ways to like deck build, but just showing that you can play a goofy game where you just miss all your triggers, you tap the wrong lands, or like as like just showing people having fun with Commander, right? I think
EDH hijinks
yeah,
is my
exactly.
favorite show for that exact reason because it's just like, whoops, I don't know what my deck does. I just built it right before the stream. We're gonna miss a lot of triggers today. Yay!
And
Or
that's fine. Like that's just part of what the Commander experience is like.
oh yeah, like everybody's like, you're not playing perfectly. I'm like, have you ever played a Commander game? Like if you play Commander game with real people, then nobody's gonna be like we're not gonna get any of those twit longers where someone's trying to angle shoot you about your trigger message. If you
You
miss a
know,
trigger like 3 players away, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, go ahead and draw the card."
one
Who
of the
cares?
things I learned when I went back to starting playing more 1v1 formats like modern and stuff like that is someone was like, "Wow, you're really good at catching triggers." Like, because I'm used to catching triggers for 3 players. I think I can handle one.
You're right, exactly. It's so weird because like when I go back and play 1v1 Magic, I'm like, it's so much less to pay attention to. There's only one person there. I know exactly what you're doing at all times. It's so weird. Like you're so used to like, oh, somebody else will handle it. No, I am the only person who's handling that. There's only one other player here.
Yeah, and
It's
I
mm,
think something also, I don't know how many competitive players listens to this podcast because it's casual magic, but something I also like to tell people going from 1v1 to commander is that your level of control is like a lot less, right? There is still control. Like you can control like the little bit of the board and the outcomes of it, but I think a lot of players or competitive players try to apply the same level of thinking and analysis for
mm-hmm.
all players, right? And all
Yeah.
decisions they make, which is just complete like you just get overloaded.
Yeah.
So part of like learning how to enjoy Commander is actually learning how to let go, which is something
Yeah.
that I do when I something I tried to like improve upon as a competitive player is like learning, not every outcome's under my control. And if you play casual commander, that is the perfect place to practice that because there's going to be times where someone will be like, you know what? You looked at my land war elves funny, and the whole game I'm just gonna
Oh
attack you.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And it feels
Like
bad, right? But there's nothing you can do about it. So you're just like, okay, that's it. That's the game. There's no
well, yeah,
logic,
like
rhyme, or
check it
reason.
out. So the other day I was playing against my friend and his son. His son's like 9. And I gave him the Urza Precon to play, and we were just playing with some
Good
random
precon.
decks I'd brought or whatever. And his son just decided to pick on me. He's like, I'm gonna, exile your graveyard and do all these things. I'm like, why? Your dad's sitting there and he's like much stronger. He's like, yeah, but you're trying to convince me to attack him, so I'm going to attack you. And I'm like, okay, 9-year-old logic, fine. But
Yeah.
it's also like, guess what? That just kind of happens. Like whenever people get on me about threat assessment, the mystical like chant they like to use, like threat assessment, like bro, this is Commander. This is a game where you could have like got me the wrong soda 4 days ago, and I'm going to attack you all game because of that, right? Like, or any number. Like you ate the last chip in the bag, so I'm going to hit you, right? Like this is not about logical on the board efficiency. This is about emotional, like mistakes that we're going to be living with because we're
Yes.
humans. Like I was on Elder Dragon Social Club, which is a thing that Loading Ready Run does. They have their wheel of precons. We roll precons and we get to spin this big wheel and get precons, and then we play a game of EDH. Because I was up there for vacation, and I got to play in a pod with Wheeler and with you know Adam Savadan and with um other folks, and we're sitting there, and like I was also at the PPR for Legend for Baldur's Gate, and during the Baldur's Gate PPR, Wheeler drafted all the white cards when I was obviously clearly going for the white cards in the set. And because of that, I was attacking him all game and making irrational plays because I was mad at him. And I was like, the last time we played, you screwed me. And he's like, there's continuity now. I'm like, this is Commander, baby. It's like 3 months ago, you took the soldier token I needed. Now I'm attacking you for it.
And then eventually that continuity leads to eventually you bury the hatchet and a new chapter begins, right? And
Yeah. And
and
we
that's the
turn and start
magic of
attacking the
Commander.
other person.
You build these stories that transcend games.
I love that. That's the best part. It's like, like there's always going to be the dude at your table who brings out that one deck, and when they do, everybody's going to attack him for it, and we all know it, even if it's like the dumbest deck in the world, because he did a thing at one time, and then people are like, "Yeah, but they're not the threat. Why aren't you attacking the actual threat?" And I'm like, "I think I am. I think I am."
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today, Rebel. I love talking to you.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun. We
if
should hang
people
out
wanted
more.
to if people wanted to find you and your stuff and your Untitled Commander show that we didn't even get to talk about, where should they go?
Go on the YouTubes, and you can find me under Rebel Sun. Remember, there's two L's. The second L, super important.
Yeah, because only one L leads you to Confederacy.
Yes. That's a really good line.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, Rebel is amazing. One of my favorite people in the community. Y'all should follow her, watch her content. It's like probably the only Commander stuff that I actually watch. Um,
That's high praise.
well, it's like I, it's so much fun. It's so weird and so off kilter, but your deck ideas are also very good. Um, But yeah, no, I love Rebel. I'm glad you were able to come on today. And as always, friends, if you want to find me, you can find me at Gearbury Gears. You can find all my, you can find this show anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff on Tuesdays, or at YouTube on Thursdays. Thank you to my editor EK. And remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.